It's the 25th of February. It's just coming up to 4:10. So it's not the news we wanted, but many of us will see higher energy bills. The regulator Ofgem has announced that the price cap, which is the maximum amount a supplier can charge for 1 unit of energy, will go up by 6.4% from the start of April. It'll add around £110 a year to a typical energy household bill. That's just under a tenner a month. And that's if you're on the standard tariff. So if you're on the price cap tariff, on that standard one, then you will see the amount you pay per unit of energy go up from the start of April. Elsie Melville is from Uswitch. Here are explaining here why it's a good idea now to possibly switch supplier.
If you are on that standard tariff at the moment, there are savings to be made out there. So run a comparison, see what's out there for you, take a look at the deals on the market. If you're looking to fix, we recommend you take a look at the duration of the tariff, any exit fees on the tariff, and then see if that is right for you.
So I think it's worth just saying, to be clear, if you have fixed already and that takes you past April, then obviously the unit price of energy going up will not affect you because you're protected by that fix. And there are still some fixes around today that are cheaper than what the price per unit of energy is going to go up from April. So it is working out better today for you to switch, but do go and check, do compare, and obviously do what is right for you. Now, as far as your homes go, many of us have probably got draft excluders, and we'll be watching already how much water we put in the kettle before we boil it. But there are some bigger things you may want to think about, changes-wise to your home to make it more energy efficient. Well, Charlie Baker is from the energy efficiency group Your Home Better in Greater Manchester. Hi there, Charlie. Hi, Charlie, you there? Oh, I think Charlie.
Yes, I just
hello.
I had. You were there to say you're on mute, mate. Just because that's the new 21st century call sign, isn't it?
You're on mute, mate. I love it. Charlie, before we have a chat with you, just explain what your energy efficiency group. Sorry, start that again now. Your energy efficiency group does. Your Home Better. What do you do?
We want to enable people to actually get their homes comfier, cheaper to heat, making them less ill, and obviously much lower carbon. Our original founding costs were paid for by Greater Manchester Combined Authority because they knew that there was something needed in that space between those people with a lot of money down the back of the sofa and those people qualifying for the grants. So we help anyone in that space in between, and in fact we also help people find out whether they do qualify for the grants. We're a community interest company, but we're also a cooperative. Our members are the businesses doing the work, as well as the community groups on whose behalf we want to make sure we make it work.
So what people are doing to the homes, the bigger things we're going to talk about, they might have to shell out a bit of cash, like you say, if they don't qualify for grants initially, but this is in the longer run about saving money, isn't it? So it might not be too much pounds immediately, but over a longer period of time, this will help.
So what we aim to do is try and make sure that the total cost of occupation of somebody's home, so that's all your bills, they go, even if we swap some of those bills for paying back a loan or obviously retopping up your piggy bank, those figures go down. And so what we do is we model people's homes if that's what they want. If they just know what they want because they're bored of their toes going numb while they're watching Corrie, then we can help them get that sorted, and we find them contractors to help do that. But you're quite right, it's going to involve shelling out some cash now. We have got a relationship with Manchester Credit Union, so we can get people some loans if they join the credit union, and they will give a good preferential rate if it's low carbon measures that you're doing. So that if you haven't got that money down the back of the sofa I previously mentioned, then you can do something so that it shouldn't cost you too much. But the other thing about this is making people much comfier, much healthier in their homes.
Yes, which is a big thing as well, isn't it? I mean, and should we talk about loft insulation? Should we start with that? Because you obviously can get people in to do that, or you can actually do it yourself as well, can't you?
You can do, but obviously the things you need to be careful about is that you find out where the rafters are before you go trekking across your loft, that you don't end up
into your
waking
bedroom.
your auntie. Well, you don't end up arriving in bed by the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you need to be careful about that. But if you find out where the rafters are, and you can always put a little crawl board down first, and then you can work down that and you can top your loft up. What we have found from going around with the thermal imaging camera, so checking out from beneath first before you go in the loft, quite a lot of the time, because at some points in the past, the money available for the poor lads doing the loft insulation hasn't been brilliant. They've not maybe been laying it as fantastically as we'd hope. And so we've been into some quite modern homes where the loft roll is just lobbed up there. And then you see these big gaps in it. And so you can go up there yourself and fill those. And we can even come around with a thermal imaging camera and show you where those gaps are.
And if you were to pay somebody to come and do an average size loft to insulate it, what would that cost you?
Well, it can be really cheap, but we tend to find when we've done a proper specification for our contractors that also makes sure that you don't block ventilation pathways and end up with condensation in your loft, it's between £1,000 and 1,500 quid.
Right, cool, okay. And then cavity wall insulation, what advice can you give to people on that, and how could they get it? How would you know if you've got it?
Well, how would you know if you get it? You can usually tell if you've got it because there are telltale drill marks in your wall that tell you that somebody's been in there and squirted the stuff in, although we did find out last week that they're the same holes that if it's gone wrong, they suck it back out again. So you will probably, so the definite way of finding out what's in your wall is you give us a shout and we send someone down with a drill and a thing called an endoscope. Bit more brutal than the one you might have had in a hospital if you've been unlucky enough to have one of those. And you literally have a peek in the wall and see what's in there. And then while you're there, you can decide whether the cavity's up for it. But that's one of the things that the Great British Insulation Scheme can help most houses out with. It's not a vast sum of money, and you've usually got to chip in yourself, but it's certainly a help. And so there's a bit on our webpage, yourhomebetter.co.uk, which will take you to a little tab in the top left-hand corner where you can see what grants you qualify for. But the thing you have to be careful about with cavity wall is if your brickwork's not so chipper, then when you put the cavity wall insulation and then you get driven rain, you can end up with it getting across the cavity and making your house a bit damp. So you do need to make sure your brickwork's in good condition. And we tend to advise people to go for the little polystyrene beads rather than the blown fibre, because the blown fibre can get waterlogged if you end up with one of those defects in the wall.
And what about making your floors warmer? And, you know, we've seen a bit of a trend, haven't we, where people now don't necessarily have carpets a lot around the house. Is carpet actually good, though, for sort of keeping your room warmer?
Well, but the thing with carpet is that it's also where dust mites go and hang out. And so there's quite a considerable rise in asthma nationally. I'm not a medic. I don't know how much of that is down to carpet and how much of it's down to mould growth in people's homes. Apparently, 52% of UK homes have got mould in them. Wow. Which is an appalling statistic. So obviously, I'm a big fan of not carpet as well, just mainly because I hate cleaning. And the nice thing about a timber floor is you can just sweep it clean with carpet.
But it's not quite as cosy though, is it?
Well, unless you insulate under it, which was the question you asked me. And so we've sent people under floors, so you don't have to lift the floor. And we had some very plucky Ukrainians under a couple of floors last year who were insulating from beneath. They did a fantastic job. Even in the undercrofts, obviously, if you've got a cellar, it's even easier. But quite a lot of the bits, what they call the undercroft or the subfloor, the bit underneath the suspended floor, you can quite often get in there and then insulate from beneath. And we paint this stuff that's this purple gloop on first that seals all the air gaps, because half the problem with floors is drafts, but the other half's insulation. So all the carpet will do is help stop the drafts. It won't necessarily, it won't stop the heat loss. It'll stop the perception of it, because when your foot lands on the carpet, it feels warmer than landing on a floorboard. Yes. It's called emissivity, if you want to geek out.
There's our word of the day. And can I just ask you, Charlie, you clearly know what you're talking about here, and you've mentioned about how your company can come out and look at things and help people out. I know people can call you for free advice, can't they?
They can. Yes. So what we'll do is just because we didn't set up to make, we've got to make a living, but we didn't set up to make money out of this. We set up to make the change that needs to happen. I've got 4 children. I want them to have a future, not just an apology for a lack of one. So I'm trying to do my best. Yes. And so we do give people a free call first. And frankly, if you can, and in fact, we've also got a community engagement vehicle. And tomorrow we're outside the B&Q in Stockport. So if you want to actually come and have a chat and talk about what you can do, I shall be on that all day, because I'm currently Des, a designated driver for those of you that remember that cultural reference. And it's a big van kitted out with PV and a heat pump, so it's even toasty as well, and battery, and also lots of samples. We've got lots of material we can show people. But you can book a call, and then one of my colleagues will ring you up and talk through what you can have. And then we've got a range of reports we can offer you. So if you know that you just don't want your feet to be cold anymore, we'll do a specification of the floor for you. But if you want to know what else you can do to your house, we've got quite an entry-level report where one of us will come around and tell you what is viable in your house. And then if you want the costed and sort of proper quantitative version, I have to put your teeth in to say that, then there's another report at the other end of the scale. We're trying to make sure that the retrofit is as accessible to as many people as we can make it.
Well, Charlie, thank you for all of that. That's Charlie Baker, who's from the energy efficiency group Your Home Better in Greater Manchester. Like he said, he's outside B&Q in Stockport tomorrow if you want to go down and have a chat with him. And you can also look them up as well, and they will do that call for free advice. So it's the energy efficiency group Your Home Better.